So I assume you can still see the screen. Yes. This is good. Well, I'm going to do a couple things. So just bear with, hold on to your question, and let me just go over a bunch of things with you, and I might be answering the question. There we go. Sheet. All right. So on the 3D menu, Victor, have you been using this over here? This. Okay, good. This is the instance tool. This helps you put instance prims and all that kind of stuff on the screen. And it keeps, yeah, it's the only way to do it. This must be a really small sheet. All right, so you see one thing that it did is it took all that text off from the screen and moved it off to the side. Now, yeah, I did that, or the software does that. So Victor, just to let you know, so everything I'm going to be showing you today, and including these buttons over here, all of this stuff and under Osborne Utilities. So the core feature of what they do is Medusa. But I built a whole user interface specifically for doing a lot of these things. So these are non-standard Medusa stuff. You're not going to find them in the manual. Okay? So when you go over and click on this and it asks for a part number and you create a new drawing, it asks for part number, all that stuff, it's all customized stuff, including this instance tool. Yeah, I programmed all of it into Medusa. So Medusa, the fact that there are instance prims and the fact that it has a part number and a path and all that other stuff, that's standard Medusa stuff, but you would have to actually physically put it on there and fill in the blanks and do everything. So this takes care of doing all that stuff. So with this, actually let's close this for a minute because this is kind of, so this whole thing here, let me get rid of the graphics. All right. So FYI, most of the time this is okay. This one's in kind of a weird place, somebody moved it. There's a little, so these little things here that you do, those are called prims, all right? So there are lots of different kinds of prims for various things. These are all for 3D. This one here is just a special little prim. This determines where this list shows up. So when you open up that tool, it looks for this and then builds that list from there on down. On this drawing, that list is not in a very good place, right? Because it's right over our drawing. It also, yeah, there's a little prim there. So, and there's a second one up here. There's two of these things. They're IN1 and IN2. And that determines where this list shows up. So this is all the stuff that you normally put into a prim. A path and a name and that stuff. So it moved all that stuff over here. So if we move these things, so in this case, it looks like we got to have room here. So we're going to find this one over here. Oops. Got to find the prim. And I'm going to move it. Yes, move it over there. And then we're going to find this one. And we're going to move it up here. Now, in a lot of the drawings, these are in okay places. We open up the instance tool, and it's going to move all the stuff that goes with it. Because whenever you open the instance tool, it looks at all of this information and builds all this stuff, reorganizes the text and all puts it over there. So in this case, now we got it's just moving it around. So this stuff over here is the 3D stuff that Medusa needs. This is just a list for your purposes so you can see what's there. So this is sort of the it's useful, yeah. Well, it is very. And you can pick these items by picking off the list. So it highlighted this prim over here because it's this. Now something that I just fixed, let me exit the tool, see if that causes it to do it, where it kicks off. Oh, I didn't find descriptions for those. No, the description should be get loaded in automatically. And it did for the ones that are there. So yes, sort of. Okay, so these updated because these actually had descriptions. So I figured out, Jim, the command in Proteus to update that. You have to, again, do the, was it TCL? Yeah. Yeah, and I'll print you out a thing that shows you what command to type in. It's IM2-MED, something like that. We'll get to that later. So if you at any point in time, you can go over, pop over into Proteus and type in this command, and it will rebuild the list that it gets this information from. So if you went out, no, where it comes from, how it's on the screen, where it comes from. It takes all of the information, it takes the part number and the description out of Proteus, it builds a table for all of them, all like 8,000 of them that are out there. Or maybe it was more than that, but something like that. And whenever, so you saw how it kind of slowly went through each one of these. It was going out, taking the part number, looking it up, finding the description that came out of Proteus, and sticking it in here. But you got to turn on this button, click button down here that says validate. Yeah, you got to validate reorg. And if you have that on, whenever you open this up, now it may not by default, when you first open Medusa, it may default to being off. I don't know whether it saves this or not. Probably not. You may have to turn it on. And then you just close it and reopen it again, and it will go through and update all this stuff. So now you've got a good description of what's out there. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Well, now, so part of the problem here is that there are multiples in different locations. There are ways to actually place one prim and have it in multiple locations by putting multiple arrows in it. So where you've got a link line, you know, like this one over here, and you've got one there. Well, you can have one, and then you put another arrow up here, and then that would be two. Now that quantity might go to two when you do that. I'd have to change it and see. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, if it made sense. But I mean, there are limitations. You've got this prim here. So let's say you wanted 4 of them. You wanted one here, you wanted one here, you wanted one here, and you wanted one here. Well, you can't do that with this prim. Because this prim puts it in this location, so you can put one here and you can put one here, but you can't put them over here. So you have to actually put another prim over here and then put 2 arrows in. So you can't scatter them. Right, yeah, you can't scatter them all over the drawing. So there are just some limitations on the quantity thing. Correct. Right. So there are, and eventually we'll throw another line on there and put another arrow on it. Actually, could probably do that. So if we go to link line, so there's a function over here called link line, and it actually puts you into edit mode of the link line, associated with the prim that you have. And so now, so if I put another, alright, so I put another arrow up there. It's in a funky place, so I'll put another arrow in there. So now that we've done that, if we open this up, let's just see if I made it smart enough to do. Now the reorg thing, that's part of the reason why you may not want it on, because it means every time you open it, it goes out and checks all this stuff. You don't need to do that if you're working interactively, because if you just add one, it's going to grab the description when you add the individual one anyways. So, and if you've only got 2 or 3 of them, then it doesn't really matter. Let's see, did we get? Let me go probe on that one. Let's see if we did it. No, it didn't change the number. So the quantity part, kind of ignore that. Because that's not particularly useful. That actually then should have put that on. No, that won't make any difference. All this is 2D stuff. It doesn't care anything about the model. All right. No. Well, that's because you want to be able to click on each one of them individually and have them light up. So that's, yeah. So otherwise you wouldn't know what was what. So, anytime you click on one of these, then it lights up over here. So you know what. Correct. Yeah. And normally you've only got 2 or 3 or 4 or something. You don't usually have 20 of something. So in any case, you can see everything that's in the drawing. It's all up here. Now, so now there is this thing called A view. So I'm putting this in here, and one thing when you do have this tool up, it will let you do certain things without popping out of it. One of them is windowing. So if I window in down here, and that will stay up there. And got to turn this reorg thing off. Because I windowed it, popped out and popped back in again. So you don't want to have this validate reorganization thing. You don't want to have it on all the time. It will validate when you type in a new part number. It's going to validate and correct the way. So normally, if you're working with a drawing and it's already been updated, it's going to stay updated. So you don't really have to do this all the time. Have that on. If I were to type in a new part number up here, then it will go out and get that. It should get that and stick it in there. All right. So there is, so right now, I don't know whether I've got the correct prim for placing this in the drawing. Because I don't know whether it's a left or a right or whatever, I don't know what it looks like. So you can turn on A view. In A view, I think I may have to go pick it again, will actually go out and bring a wireframe version of that down. Let's do this one. That one did not look very interesting. There we go. So now I can see that bolt is going down into the top of that thing. I've got the correct orientation for the bolt. Right? In addition to that, scroll back out a little bit. You can also use the center mouse button, the wheel, and click on it. And when you click on it, it will, in a given view box, it will make it show up in that view box. So if I'm going to do a center mouse click up here, oh, AV, looks like AV went down. Go back up again. There we go. And it should, yep, there it goes. So that helps you see what you're doing. So we go over here and click on this one over here, and center mouse click over here. No, it did it on there right away. This one did it for that one. Once. Pop it in here. So now we can see what the orientation is in all the views. I don't know why it's not doing it in that one reliably. It did it once. But it's a wire frame. It's not a hidden line removed. It's just the boundaries. Just so you can see that, yeah, I got that in there correct. So that's pretty cool. Now, if I said, oh, you know what, I don't have that in there right, I really wanted that going the other way, you've got this little, so this is the orientation that it currently is. All right, so let me just zoom in. Okay, so, but that's wrong. I don't want that. So you can click on this in the corner of this thing. There's a little corner right there. Click on that, and it pops out, and it says, oh, no, I really want this view. And it actually puts it in and flips it. You can see all the graphics. It all updated. So now you can change the orientation of it very easily by clicking on that and reorient it. Well, A view is just, it basically puts these graphics and drops it onto the screen. It's part of the drawing right now. I mean, if you go over here and delete all your delete all this stuff up here, then it'll go away. It'll clear it. You can also, when this tool is up, a right mouse click. Now you can actually do like a 90 degrees rotate on the prim, and now we've changed its orientation. Right click anywhere out here in the window, like out here, a right mouse click, and then there's a pop-up menu that comes up. So you can rotate the prim. Now remember, rotating the prim doesn't change the orientation of what's coming into the model file. It just changes its, yeah, it's rotating the prim. Right, correct, it's rotating in its own axis, perfect, yes, that's correct. So you've got a couple of common rotates up here for doing that. You can move the prim, so that's just going to, it puts it up here on the cursor, and you can just give it a new location. And you notice it moved the link line and everything with it. Alright? So then I exit that, and this will pop back up again. And now you can actually see better, the rotation. might not be a perfect tool. Occasionally it might go away when you didn't want it to. And yeah, me. Yeah, well, depends on how much money you want to spend. Um, if it just pops and goes away once in a while, I don't know that it's worth me going in and spending 4 or 5 hours worth of programming to figure out why it goes away once in a while. Um, Maybe more. In any case, so that's stuff. And then when you right click over here, you can do the reorg if you want to update all that stuff. You can delete your A views just to clear them off the screen, because again, they're just lines and just lines that are up there. And the other thing you can do, click on here. We talked about the size of the prim. So over here in the corner, there's magnify prim. This does not change the modeling or anything else. It just changes the graphical size of the prim. So your model doesn't get bigger. You're just changing the size of that thing to make it easier to see the drawing. So you don't have prims buried on top of prims buried on top of prims. Okay, so it just changes them graphically. And then you've got rotations over here. So if you need to rotate it, 45 degrees, the other one, they just put a couple of basic ones up there, but you can type in whatever you want to do over here. And click OK. Boom. Now we've rotated it 45 degrees. So, let's see. I'm just going to grab that part number because I don't want to remember part number. Copy that. So then I'm going to flip over to new. And actually it would bring that one up. But I'm going to make it as if I just typed it in. And you see it's already got the description and everything with it. And then I can drop a new one down. And then right now there's no link line to it, so now you just click on link line and it sets it up for you to create a link line. You still got to set the prim though, the point function. Surprised it didn't do that. Oh no, I'm not doing this the easy way. Oh, there we go. It puts a point on there. So there's, when you right mouse click on it, you just click on that, that will put the point, put the arrow on there. And so what happens if we go preview? Correct. So if I go down probe another one, right mouse click, put an arrow on it. So now I got two of those there. It did do it. When you do it that way, it did update that. So if there's an arrow there, two arrows on that, and you do it through the mechanism, it actually will tell you there are two of them. Yeah. So it just depends on how you put them in. Like I say, you can't. There's no way to make this. Nothing's impossible. But right now the system doesn't add up how many of these there are. But if there are two arrows on the link line, it is going to tell you there are two of them, so that you would get your numbers correct. 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 So if I go back to link line, it's going to take me there. We got to go to the end. I remember which ones. Oops. Yeah, I think I kicked out completely. Yeah. 3 of them. Okay? Because otherwise you wouldn't know. So it almost has to do this when you've got multiple arrows on there. So otherwise you wouldn't be able to rely on the information in this table. Well, to say it more correctly, it tells you how many prims and how many times that prim is generating that object. Okay? Okay, good. Right, so you just exit out of there and model. The only problem is I'm going to change, I don't want to do that because it's going to save this sheet. Let me save this sheet as something else. Because otherwise I'm going to check, because I opened up one of your original models, so it's not good. We don't want to do that. Subs. And I could go off. Let's just go to temp directory here. This PCC. Just dump it in the temp. Alright, now I can model it. There they all are. Now, if I go back into here, well, yeah, it would be. Let's say that you were putting in a bolt and you put it in here, and you needed it here, and you needed it here, so that would work. Right. So you don't need to put 2 prims in because they're in line with, they're collinear. You just want one in this corner and you want one in that corner. So that's the way you would do that. Right. There would have to be a, could you click on continue, please? This will, it times out after a while. There we go. I mean, it would have to be a separate program that would create something. This is more orientated towards managing the prims as opposed to a bill of materials. I mean, if somebody really wanted me to, I could write a program that would take this and add it up and tell you how many of these and how many of those, relevant to where they are. But you need this in order to manipulate the prims. Yeah, it's prim management. Yeah. So I'm back into modify. If I go up and click on, see now you don't have to. The other thing is once you get into here. It's not picking one. Why is it not picking one? different, so now they're gonna come up, you can see the way they were in the model and the way they are now. So you get visual feedback from, and you can see that this has the proper description and everything, 'cause that was one that I added in there. So, all right, so well, yeah, well, you know what? You needed to, you already you've done a very good at, you understand what prims are, you understand all that stuff, and you kind of need to understand that before I can tell you this. Otherwise, if you start using this, you wouldn't understand actually what it was you were manipulating. Yes, right. I know, yeah, and that's the reason why he didn't tell you. But if I had started you off doing this, you need to understand what a prim is and how it works. You know, it's what drives the prim is this stuff as far as Medusa is concerned. Medusa doesn't care about the description. That doesn't matter to it at all. It just needs to have. No, Medusa's, yeah, Medusa doesn't do that though. My program does that. Medusa doesn't care whether it's there or not. It's not relevant. Yeah, yeah. So that's a much better tool. You can do up here. There's a update instances, which is basically, can't remember, validate instance prims. That was update prims. You can do update, which where's the console? Oh, yeah, that one has a little buggy. The window didn't come forward. When you got multiple screens, it's okay because you kind of put the text window in the other window, but there's a little bug with that one. It doesn't pop up. Right now it's actually going to give you the part number and a chance to actually type in the description, although you don't really want to do that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, hopefully there is, but if you had one that didn't have a description to it yet and you wanted to get it in there, you could. So once you do that, you've got to bring this console window forward, which I had to click down here in order to do that. And it comes up and picks that part number, and then actually it came out, it went out and looked that up and saw what description, and if there wasn't one there, you could type one in. So. Yeah, you could go up. Yeah, but in order to get Medusa to do it automatically, then you've got to go into Proteus, you've got to issue the command, you go back to do that, and then reopen this and reorganize. It doesn't take very long. It probably took about a minute maybe to generate the list. And if you ever get to the prompt like that, you have to type in quit. There. So it looks like it took it out. Yeah, that says my part. So I just typed in my part number in there. All right. So that's that tool. So you can play around with that and learn, and let's bring it up and see what else there was there. This stuff. Not currently. Is it possible for me to figure out a way to do that? Yeah, but you can't really select a group of text and then get it out. if Jim, not sure I'm excited about doing it, but if Jim really wanted to, every time it generated this, I could have it create a file and then put a button on here that would click on there and you could open the file up, a text file, and then you could import the text file. But that would be a little bit more programming on it to be able to do it. I mean, it wouldn't be extremely complicated, but I mean, it's well, that's just it. I mean, it might cost you $500 for me to create a function to be able to do that. Right. Yeah. Logically, could I do that? Yeah, that really should be. Technically, is not a difficult thing to do. My challenge at going in and doing any programming at this point in time is I have to reactivate a bunch of brain cells that are sleeping right now. I actually had to do that to actually use this. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to remember how all that worked. So I have to do the same thing. I haven't done any actual programming in Medusa now probably in 10 years, maybe. It's all in there. Can I figure it out? Yeah, I figured it all out to begin with. Nobody told me how to do it. So yeah, is it possible? And every time it did a reorg, it could go out, create a text file. I could put a button down here. You click on it, it would open it up in Notepad, and then you can do with it as you wish after that. Well, I could create a comma delimited one, and then you would take that directly into Excel, actually. But yep. All right. So that's pretty much that tool. All of those things go. So the quantity up here, this is something you can change. It figures it out. All right. And pick on something just for picking on it. And right mouse. Let's go back to window to the sheet. So I can remember where things are. There we go. Oh, well, see. Once in a while, it's gonna like screw up and go away, and you gotta start over again. Oh, why can't it? Not working. Oh, I probably gotta open back up. No, it's not open. Show console. Formally exit the tool. No, no, this has got to make that. There. Yeah. So we got rotate, move prim, copy instance, which is basically the prim, reorganize, delete selected. You can have it remove the link line from it, or you go to the properties. That didn't work. Properties. All right. So whatever. There is a update over there. That's the reorg. Although it happens when you open the tool anyway, so you don't really need it. And that validates that it goes through and runs the validation on everything. It will show you where the paths are to where all the model files are in the sheets and all that stuff that's in there. All right, now on link lines. detail levels. When you click on a link line, sometimes it depends on how you get into it. I think when you do it from the tool, this doesn't show up. But when you do it from here, and just in Medusa, you click on the link line, there's a tool up here for the detail levels. So link line properties, it's a special one. As long as I'm not screwed up here. I got Medusa messed up at the moment. There we go. So we created a table that shows what should be on what detail level. So various things up here, you can see them in brackets, shows where they're at. You scroll down through here, so you can scroll down through here and say, I got coil, insulation, tape. You click on that one. And the two numbers that are there, one is the detail level and the other one is the color. So we kind of created a default color for it. Now you can change it if you don't want that color. But those are a bunch of, it just makes it easy, you don't have to think about it too much. You just go down there and pick it and it's going to make whatever color. And it shows the color right here in this box. And then you've got color basically by what it is too. That changes it, another way to change it. So, yeah. So there's apparently a second table, intended use. I don't know if that, so there are a bunch of standard colors and things over here, or special wires or certain materials, craft paper. So if this doesn't apply, you can use that up there. You put the detail level in and all that stuff. If you want to see the list, there's edit list here. You can actually change it if you don't like the way it is. But it shows you what they are, what the color number is, what the detail level is, the model name, and the description. So it actually names the model too, which is actually another thing. In any case, so that's there. Oops. There's a tool. And you can just pick on these things. That's no color, that gets rid of it. And of course white. You can just pick on the individual colors if you want to make something more colorful. Two things came out the same color and you didn't want that, just change the color to something else. It's sort of an attempt to create some standards so that when you look at things, the craft paper is always the same color. That helps. But again, this tool and that instance tool, you're not going to find in any manuals. Okay? Yeah. So you're talking about this tree over here? Yeah, well, it did that. It did that because probably in that reorg tool, it probably applies a name to the model. So that, see, now if I click on them, they update. I believe so. You're going to have to play with that part. But when they say unnamed now. Now they're not unnamed anymore. So now you know what's what when you go to do things. Keeps things together. So I think, was there anything up there? Yeah. Now the other tool that there is to create the lead tool. This one I don't know that I'm going to demonstrate right now. So to help with that, there is a help diagram, which is actually a Medusa sheet. And that kind of explains what the different types, there's these multiple probes over here. So you got a 5-probe step, 5-probe zigzag, and a single 3-probe. Those are different ways to do it. So here you can see it shows you where each probe goes. Probe 1, probe 2, and it's going to generate that. And here we got probe 1, probe 2, probe 3, and it's going to, you've got some other things to fill in. Jim may be able to explain some of these a little bit better than I do. I just created them. Okay. Right. But the diagram will kind of help give you some idea where the probes need to go. You may have to experiment a little bit. It may not be totally explanatory, but at least you get some idea. Well, you don't, whatever, why? So you just click on this help button and it comes up. Yeah, you don't have to worry where it is. It's right there on the menu. You just click on help and it will bring the sheet up so that you can review it and figure it out. Okay? The good thing is when you use this lead tool is it clumps this stuff all together. So it creates a hierarchy. So if you want to get rid of, it's going to generate a whole bunch of link lines. But they're all nested together so you can actually pick them as a group and delete them. In fact, so you can pick one of them and so select single or select all, and then if you want to delete, you just hit the delete button. So if it generated 5 leads and there was one of them you didn't need in there, so you just go ahead and generate the 5, do a select single and it will pick one of them, and then you just delete it. If you want to pick the whole set, you just click on this, click on any one of the leads, it'll light them all up, and you just hit delete, and they're gone. So there's a wire diameter list. So when you pick up, it just gives you access to the list that's on there. So when you click on this, it's got all different kinds of wire and different aughts, and it automatically adjusts this table down here. And then you've got another list over here for whatever. Right. And then you're going to have finished leads. Again, probably best just to turn those on, turn them off, wire winding. I have to play with it for a while to even remember what they do, but I think you would generally know, Jim, because those are your terms. And then they've got the pre-finished on and off. Yeah, all these things these parameters here just change the way it's going to generate something. Yeah. Yeah, the first few times, several times, you're probably gonna have, especially you do each one of the things, you're gonna have to sit and look at it, see what it does and go, oh, okay, let me try this, yeah, and the various ways that it works, but it's a pretty handy tool, because doing this in Medusa, trying to run a wire around places is challenging. um, yeah, yeah, well, so that's good. So that's that's kind of helpful, because now again you understand the foundation of what this tool does. This tool doesn't do anything other than do what you did manually automatically. Right. But if you had to run 6 leads like this and carry them out and everything like that, you'd be couple hours worth of trying putting all the prims and everything on there to make it work. And this tool will do it in a matter of a couple seconds. So, um, and you can manage them, yeah. So I think that will give you some food for thought. Okay, and we've been on here for almost an hour now, and I am going to hopefully save this recording, and you can always go back, and if you've got an hour worth of your time that you want to waste, you can watch it again. Yes. Yeah. Wow. Even with programming knowledge, it's going to take quite a bit to get this. There's 2 different places that this is programmed in. So the lead tools, the interactive tools themselves, um, those are one form of programming in it, which has to do more with the user interface. And then the other ones are macros. So when you do these guys up here and you go to open a new drawing, that's a whole different programming language, and there's a whole lot of things that you need to understand. It's like I mean, if you understand programming, that's always helpful. If you understand ifs and do's and that kind of stuff, that's helpful. But it has its own syntax, and so when you're doing these things in Medusa, there are some underlying commands you can actually um, like just one thing here. So yeah, yeah, you're a long ways. You need to understand. So to do the programming for the last part, let me go here. So new line L0 AT $RP. Yeah, right. So there, yeah, there's a whole underlying command line stream that you have to understand to do these things. So it has its own language, and then there's a programming. So what you have to understand the commands first. Um, and then once you understand the commands that go with it, then you have to understand the programming language, and there's a bunch of syntax things that are kind of tricky with it in order to make it work. And it Medusa. It's its own programming language, yes it is. No, I think you actually can record a macro though. That you can do. Yeah, and when you macro, let's not put it there. Create a mess there. Oh, I believe it's actually trying to run. Let's run. Oh, I see. I put the name over there. Huh? Idiot. Yep. Now it's trying to open it. What the heck? Bloody hell, run. That's run. Oh, those are programmed. Yeah, there's simple macros and then there's program macros, which are two different things. Um, yeah, I don't remember. I thought there was a record. I'm sure there is a record, but I can't remember where it is. Yeah. But, well, when you, when you go to the documentation, it just opens a web browser. So we're in the web browser, so now just right mouse click on that and, duplicate the tab. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Oh, no, it wasn't written to do that. That's something that could be done. I could put in the, so again, you could put in 1 comma, 2 comma, 3 or spaces or whatever, and I could do that, but it doesn't. They are already. He's already done that. He wants to do 2 space, and you'll see, yeah, right. Oh, well, no, you don't. So let's, by the way, when you've typed something, there's a stack and you can use the up arrows and down arrows to go back to what you typed. Okay, good. Okay, I don't know. So let's just, yeah. So the whole, this whole part numbering system is again a whole custom structure done based around the way that Osborne does part numbers. Yeah. To accept the drawing. Accept this drawing. Or enter a line number. Okay, so you can put in a change like that one. But now you can just, you don't have to close it all though, you just type in the new part number. Oh, doesn't it? I just did it. I just typed in new part number. I mean, you don't have to close the window, just type in a new part number. Oh, it overwrites the current one? Oh, okay. That would, no, yeah, yeah, what it's doing is, yeah, each session opens a drawing in a tab, as opposed to, um, opening one and then open the next one up tab. Again, that would be a programming change, it was designed to do that to start with. Well, let's say that he's opened up the assembly and he wants to change one of the parts in the assembly, or if he knows what things he wants to open up here. Let's say that he wanted to open up, he needed to open up the PA and the SA at the same time, and the FA. Well, he has to go back and do each one separately and search for it each time, rather than once it opens one, it could then say, do you want to open another drawing? And then you say yes, and then it could even keep the same list from the same list, and then you could pick a different one from that list. But no, it would have to create new tabs for each one. Right. So I would have to change it so that you could type in. The best way to do it is so that you can type in multiples from there. I mean, actually, two things. One is so you can type in 2, 3, 2, 4, and 6, and press enter, and it would open all of those. And then the next thing would come around and say, do you have a new part number? Without having to close it, so you could start and open other ones. I don't know why you need to do this second one that much, but it's not my call. But again, it would be a programming change in order to make it that. I mean, right now it just takes a couple minutes to open a couple drawings. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't want to get out of there. Now we've got it picked up. Zero. Now that's what's waiting for. That's what's waiting for zero to put out. Yep. So yeah, you can change parts, but you're right. It's going to open it up in the same tab. It's got to be able to open another tab You guys can go out and Medusa size now.